Hey, Dr. Morey, Uncivilized Vitality, and this video is going to be about one of the ideas that I put in my forthcoming book. Well, actually, it might be out by now by the time you see this. So, Uncivilized Vitality, looking back to move forward, health and happiness optimization. And here's one of the principles or the underlying structures or tenets that help me put Uncivilized Vitality together. My poor wife, we went for a walk this morning, one of our early morning walks. She usually does a couple miles around town every day, 2 to 5 miles. And then I try to get 25, 30 miles a week in chunks. But I went with her this morning. She probably thought she'd have a nice quiet walk. But for whatever reason, I got on one of my usual rants while we're walking. And then she said, that would be something that you maybe could do a video on and explain, because sometimes people in our chapter meetings ask me about that. And I haven't really laid it out so much yet on video because it's in the book. But let's talk about one of the organizing principles of Uncivilized Vitality. Right. I talk about this quite a bit. So the cell is the smallest living unit. So it's the smallest thing that can be said to be alive. A single-celled organism like bacteria or individual human cells. Cells are going to biologically be ordered in the sense that they come together to form tissues. Tissues will work together to form organs. Organs work together in organ systems. Organ systems lead to organisms. And then a bunch of organisms living together in a biological milieu or whatever are called ecosystems. That's an biological organizational hierarchy for varying levels of organization for living things. Ecosystems are composed of organisms, both plant and animal, and then those various organisms, like a human or a dog or a pine tree. Well, I won't talk about the plants because it's slightly different, although the parallels are the same. Human beings I'm composed of different various organ systems. My cardiovascular system, my musculoskeletal system, my renal system, nervous system, endocrine. These systems are to meet the physiological and physical needs of being alive, right? I have to move around, I have to get food, I have to make copies of myself. And my organ systems are composed of individual structures called organs, which are composed of the 4 tissue types. Tissues are groupings of like-minded cells. So this gave me an idea, and then from an anthropological sense, human beings are also organized in a hierarchy or various levels of organization to form, much like ecosystems, human societies. Right? A society is composed of various cultures, right? Which would kind of correspond to like an organism. And then cultures are formed of so-called subcultures, which would correspond to like organ systems, these different subcultures. Subcultures, just like organ systems are made up of organs, subcultures are composed of communities. Right? And then, just like it goes down here, communities are composed of kinship groups, or we're going to use the term families. And then, just like tissues go down all the way to the individual, which is analogous to the cell. So the smallest functioning unit of a society is an individual. And just like to have a healthy organism, you have to have healthy cells. The analogy stands. You have to have healthy, self-reliant, capable, adaptable, durable individuals. Individuals form families, families form communities, communities lead to subcultures, and then cultures, which I should point out, cultures and subcultures are geographically determined. Eric Forey and I talk about this quite often. Cultures, I define cultures in the book and for Uncivilized Vitality as the main method for obtaining sustenance or food. You have hunting, gathering cultures, fishing cultures, pastoral cultures, agrarian cultures, blended cultures, and those are kind of geographically determined. You're not going to find a fishing culture high up in the Alps. You're not going to find a big hunting gathering culture on small islands in the Pacific. They're going to be predominantly fishing cultures because, well, that's what's around to eat, right? So these cultures and the subcultures, according to their languages, music, art, religions, beliefs, these are composed of, geographically determined, but they're composed of communities, and communities are a collection of families. Since we get into Dunbar's number, where your average community, it's 120 to 150 individuals. And that's interesting because neurologically, we know from psychology that human beings are only able to manage about 120 or so personal relationships. Like, I can know and remember details about 120 individuals. After that, it just becomes too much, probably because this is the way we developed. And then kinship units or families are composed of individuals that are related by blood and proximity, and then form into communities. So this analogous setup, I noticed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of organization, sociologically and biologically, had some impact on me when I started to organize the Uncivilized Vitality method of health and happiness. And I spend a lot of time saying, if we want healthy societies, just like we need healthy ecosystems, we need to develop healthy individuals. If I'm getting the proper rest, sunlight, nutrition, exercise, everything to develop healthy cells in my body, I will be a healthy organism and a contributing part of a good functioning ecosystem. If I have individuals that are take advantage and are consuming more than their fair share and taking advantage of the other individuals, you're going to get, it's kind of analogous to a runaway cell, like a cancer, right? And then if you break apart the family units and the communities, the smaller level, you don't get the healthy societies that you want, because you can't have healthy organs if the cells aren't doing their job, because then the tissues suffer, then the organs suffer, and ultimately the organism suffers. UV presents this parallel organizational, I don't know what you'd call this, sort of a principle, the way I organize this. And then when we give information, we say, hey, we need as capable, adaptable, and durable individuals as we can produce, and ultimately we'll have a healthier society. One of the things that, as my wife pointed out, because I'm always saying uncivilized and civilization is bad, is nowhere in here do you see the word civilization, right? Civilization is unnatural just by definition. There's no space for it in here. A lot of times people will conflate the terms civilization and society, or civilization and cultures, but specific meaning to specific terms, words are vital, right? That goes to community number 2, communicate on purpose. Words have meaning that we all have to agree on at the cultural, societal level. Otherwise, everyone can't have their own individual truth. I know that's a big saying. Everybody say, well, let me share my truth. You don't get your truth. You get an opinion, and what's that joke? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, but they don't all carry the same weight. Truth is the truth. Words have meanings. We've all agreed on that. Meanings can change over time, but you can't just arbitrarily change the meaning of words or conflate terms in order to irrationally get your point made, right? Present conclusion without proper premises or argumentation to support that. Can't just do it. So civilization is the trend toward collectivism. So we're trying to, societies that are healthy are made up of healthy individuals. When we start to blend, blur, and erase the individual, the family, and the healthy communities, anything below the cultural or subcultural level, our societies are becoming more civilized, right? Just like at the organism level, if my cells and tissues and organs aren't staying distinct and functioning, and they start to creep together or disease or cancerous cells metastasize, this starts to blur together. We would call, on a biological level, we would call that cancer, right? The biological organization hierarchy, when things start to break apart at the cellular level and work their way up until the organism dies, that's a cancerous sort of process. When things start to break apart at the individual, family, and community level and start to destroy our society by blending together, I call that civilization. So that's kind of what I'm getting at when I say we need to be as uncivilized as possible to be healthy and happy. So that's that hierarchy. I hope that kind of explains a little bit. Sometimes people are asking for a more specific definition or explanation of uncivilized vitality. This is explained a little bit more in the book, so hopefully you'll get that when it comes out. And the book, just like this YouTube channel, are sources of revenue for my Uncivilized Living Foundation charity, where we organize groups of special needs populations or underserved populations that don't get to go out in nature and get that benefit of just being outside. I've never failed to be amazed at how just a weekend up north camping, 1 or 2 nights around a campfire outside, even with the heat, the cold, the bugs, it feels so much better psychologically, physically. There's just no end to the benefits of being outside and being uncivilized, even for short amounts of time. So hopefully that made sense. I ranted at Carrie Ann for like an hour and a half this morning about this, and she's super polite. She follows along with it. So I think she said, that'd be a good idea for a video. I think that was her way of escaping from it for a little while. My wife's just smarter than I am. So there you go. Check that out. Let me know what you think. Leave comments below. Come and check out some of our Uncivilized events. Subscribe to the channel, notifications, that sort of thing. Thank you.